Glad you're here today. You indicated almost every person is here, and that's good because I don't have my microphone on. So he's a good guide, isn't he? Okay. He'll tell you, yes. Okay. So again, welcome. Glad you're here. We have some important things to do, and I'm glad you're here to help with them. The call to order, please.
Ms. Weber?
Present.
Ms. Parker? Mr. Legess? Ms. Polk? Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters? Ms. Dunbar? Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Zenz? Mr. Carrico? Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Swanson? Ms. Zucolo? Mr. Wheeler? We have a quorum. Yeah.
Welcome again to everybody. With this, we'll go to number 2, which is public comment. I do have one public comment today. It's from Christy Slaby. Her topic is the swap meets. So please, that's good. I want to be sure your microphone's on. So
Can you hear me?
I can.
Just a little bit. Okay. Hi, my name is Christy Slaby. I'm a resident of Bourbon A. I've been involved for several years in various volunteer roles in the local animal rescue community. I'm also a volunteer with a farmed animal advocacy group called Crate Free Illinois. I'm here today to express my concerns about the swap meets, which take place at the Kankakee County Fairgrounds. What once apparently began as a bird swap has evolved into an anything goes kind of event where animals of every variety can be bought and sold, largely under the radar of any enforcement or regulation agency. While not every vendor at the swap treats their animals inhumanely, the ones who do have cast a dark shadow over the entire event. I attended the last swap meet of the 2018 season in October of last year. Much of what I saw that day were things that have been previously discussed at AWAC meetings. Things such as animals without proper protection from the weather, animals without access to clean food or water, animals literally stuffed into cages piled on top of each other, including a cage full of ducks that I saw, some of them that had bloody feathers. There were animals being handled in inhumane ways. Ducks were being carried upside down with their heads and bills banging and dragging along the path. I saw a woman drive off the fairgrounds with a miniature horse riding on the front seat of her truck. Much of what I saw was nothing that hadn't already been mentioned at previous AWAC meetings. But therein lies the problem. Poor treatment of animals at swaps is ongoing and commonplace. Because something is routine, however, does not make it appropriate or acceptable. In addition to the aforementioned issues, there were a few incidents of particular note from the last swap. The most disturbing incident I witnessed at the swap was when I saw 2 very young calves being hogtied and put in the trunk of a car. The men who did this were allegedly from Joliet, so it is probable that the calves were transported in the truck for approximately 1 hour without access to food, water, or proper ventilation. According to Mark Ayers, the Illinois State Director for the Humane Society of the United States, this is a direct violation of the Humane Care for Animals Act. The organization I volunteer with, Crate Free Illinois, shared the video I took of the calves on their Facebook page. We were contacted by a woman who sent us a photo of some chickens that she had found abandoned at the end of the same swap meet. They had been left behind in a sealed plastic container. Again, this is nothing new. Kankakee County Animal Control has reported that they too have had to deal with abandoned chickens, among other animals. Animal abandonment is an illegal act that also violates the Humane Care for Animals law. In addition to the calves, there were 2 small goats that I witnessed being thrown to the ground, hogtied, and tossed in the back of an SUV like gym bags. An extremely young calf, approximately 1 week old, was for sale. He had no access to food or water. His urge to suckle something was so strong that he suckled at the bars of his rusty cage. The concern for this calf is the same as it was for the kittens and puppies that have been banned from sale at swap meets. Are these animals legally old enough to be separated from their mothers? At such a young age, was this calf old enough to be properly vetted for sale? I saw a litter of 7-week-old piglets lying in wet shavings and shivering uncontrollably, completely unprotected from the elements on a cold, windy, drizzly day. The pigs were shivering so severely that someone asked the vendor, "What is wrong with your pigs? Are they sick?" The vendor replied, "No, they're just cold," but no effort was made to address the situation. There were several roosters for sale, many with their combs shaved off and spurs removed, traits that are commonly seen in cockfighting birds. Why are we allowing the sale of animals that are likely being used for illegal activity? There are questions regarding the legality of animals being sold at swaps, such as wallabies, monkeys, foxes. Swap meets are also well known as prime locations for selling exotic birds that have been smuggled illegally into the U.S., as there is typically no licensing requirements for vendors. There are a lot of birds being sold at the Kankakee swaps, including exotics. Is anyone checking on the legality of them? There are concerns regarding the transport of animals across state lines, with vendors coming from neighboring states. Are we opening up our county, humans and animals alike, to the spread of diseases by not monitoring the health and wellness of animals brought here? To what degree is public health and safety at risk by a lack of oversight at swaps? Swap meets involve an extraordinary number of animals and vendors. The number of animals at a swap is very likely in the thousands. Given our limited resources, state and local officials struggle to enforce animal cruelty and other laws consistently at swaps. The Illinois Department of Ag has been unwilling to provide oversight at swaps, and with the scope and scale of these events, it would be unreasonable, if not impossible, to expect animal control to monitor every aspect, not to mention some of it falls outside their jurisdiction. And as we saw when the ordinance prohibiting the sale of cats and dogs was passed, there was an unwillingness to self-regulate on the part of the swap organizers. Rather than try to regulate the sale, handling, and transport of every type of animal, the best way to address these issues collectively is to put together an ordinance that would ban the sale of all live animals at Kankakee County swap meets. A blanket ban on the sale of live animals would benefit Kankakee County by alleviating the enforcement burden on animal control, which in turn would save them money and overtime. It would remove the physical and financial burdens placed on animal control when animals are abandoned after swaps. And a blanket ban is easier for law enforcement to administer, as it does not require specialized knowledge of animal cruelty laws. To be clear, this ban would not prohibit vendors from selling their animals at all. Rather, it would say that they cannot sell those animals here in Kankakee County. If the swap organizers wish to set up shop in another county, they can pursue that. It is my understanding that this is what Will County has done. They allow swaps, but they do not allow live animals at the swaps. Their swap meets are more flea market in nature with goods and products. It is important to remember many of the vendors at the swaps are not residents of Kankakee County. Many of the people who attend the swaps are also not from our county. Swap vendors and patrons are coming from all over the state of Illinois, as well as neighboring states. We are allowing these people to come into our community and use our fairgrounds as a venue to buy and sell animals whose health, welfare, and legality are going unchecked. How does our county benefit by this? There are unquestionably inhumane, if not also illegal practices occurring at swap meets, and they have been going on for years. If we are unable to effectively monitor violations of the law, then we should not allow events to take place where those violations are openly known to occur. We have already recognized that the treatment of dogs and cats at swaps was unacceptable, and an ordinance was passed to address that situation. What is happening to other animals at swaps is equally inhumane and unacceptable, and does not reflect well on our county that we allow it to continue. I'm asking this committee to adopt an ordinance that would prohibit the sale of any and all live animals at swap meets in our county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, too. The minutes of the February 19th meeting were sent to you by email. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Excuse me, Mr. Fairfield moves it, and Ms. Peters seconds it. Any discussion about the minutes? Hope everybody received them and was able to read them. They came out quickly, right? Just another day. So all in favor say aye. All opposed say aye. The motion carried. Thank you for that. Next we'll have number 4, the County Clerk Dan Hendrickson's report. Excuse me. Is there a motion to approve his report? Mr. Etkoff? Is there a second? Mr. Feather? All in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say aye. Motion carried. Okay.
Good morning.
Morning. I will turn you on.
Wrong one.
Oh, 3. Not the guess.
Okay.
Thank
Good morning,
you.
everybody. Just wanted to touch briefly on the, 2 weeks from today is the consolidated election. Early voting is going on, has been for about a week and a half. We will be open the next 2 Saturdays from 8:30 until noon, both of those days. So, if you're willing to take advantage of that and make your voice heard. Just wanted to also inform you and anybody that's watching on the internet that we do have some polling place consolidations for this election. We have voters that are in Moments 1, Moments 2, Janier 1, and Janier 3 will all be voting at the Schaffner Memorial Building. All of those voters that are going to be moving have been sent postcards. Those went out about 2 weeks ago. The voters in St. Anne, all the voters in St. Anne Township will be voting at the St. Anne Village Hall. And in Bourbonnais 12, and I think we talked about this at the last community services meeting, the former church that was on the corner of 102 and Career Center Road, Good Shepherd Lutheran, is closed, being sold to hospice. Won't be available for us as a polling place, so those voters will be going to the municipal building where Bourbonnais 1 is also voting for this election only. So apart from that, if anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Any questions? Please, Mr. Seawright. Oh, 1 second. 12. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. Dan, you got enough election judges so far? I mean, is the call still out?
The call is still out. I mean, anybody that's interested in serving as an election judge, we've sent out, we've had some people that were interested, and we've sent out links to the training. Some of those people have completed their training. Some of them have not yet. So we're still working on that. This is an odd election. We don't get a lot of as much interest in this election as we do in our general elections. We don't seem to be hurting for judges for our general elections, but the elections that aren't general elections, we're struggling to find judges on. That was one of the reasons that we had to consolidate the polling places at St. Anne 1, is that we didn't have enough judges to staff 2 polling places. So, but yeah, if there's people that are still interested in serving as election judges, please contact our office. Thank you.
And there's a training at KCC next week?
Not training, that's just an information session, actually, and it's this Thursday and Friday.
Thursday, 21st. Okay. Anything else? Thanks for your question. Mr. Legest?
County board members be judges?
County board members can be judges.
Really?
Mrs. Weber has served as an election judge
Oh, yeah?
before. Yeah. Okay.
You got 27 here.
Are you volunteering?
I said 27.
Oh,
Do I have to go to any training?
You would have to have training. We do training for this election, we're doing training online.
I don't have to go to sensitivity training, do I?
Yeah, I'm not gonna have to be sitting at your polling place and monitoring your behavior, am I?
somebody call in. Good question. Turn Mr. Legess off.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks for your good
Okay.
information.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Next, we have the assessor's office, Mr. Blair. Leave that on. While he's coming up, we get a motion to approve his report. Ms. Dunbar, and Mr. Fairfield again. Second. All in favor of approving the report of the assessor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say aye. Motion carried. It's important to do that for me. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I got just a few things to go over with you as far as some things that we completed in the month of February, and then some things that are coming up in the next month or two. First on my list, shortly after we had our meeting in February, I did receive the final abstract certification from the Department of Revenue on February 22nd. Their equalization was 1.0000. Obviously, anything times 1 is itself, so the factor did not impact any of our values in any way, which is a good sign for the clerk to go ahead and start extension. We then very quickly after that, not too far after that, on March 7th, we received the detailed sales list from the Department of Revenue for the year of 2018. Last year we got it, I think, sometime in May, so this is a little earlier, which is a good thing that we can get certified percentages that each township needs to make in terms of changes of value. We got that list on March 7th. We reconciled and sent everything to the Department of Revenue by March 14th. And I'm still waiting at this point to get that certification back from the state. I expect it sometime this week, but at last check of my email just before I came up here, I still didn't have it. So I would expect it pretty soon. And then I'd be able to let you know, at my next time of reporting where we're at in a certified manner. We also, in an effort to help the clerk calculate tax rates as accurately as possible, we did enter all of the 2018 homestead exemptions that are currently on file in our office. We have a good amount of communication with the clerk's office to know when their cutoff is before they start extension, and we try to make sure that all of our exemptions are in the system so that they're accounted for when tax rates are calculated. So all of that was done by our department. Now I've got some things that are pending and coming up, and I'm going to kind of jump ahead and tell you about some things that are going on in April and May, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So of course, like I said before, I'm still waiting on the certification of the 2018 sales ratio study from the state, and that should be any day now. I'm waiting to receive the 2020 farmland values, PI values from the state. That usually comes at the end of April. Once that happens, then I can schedule a farmland assessment review committee meeting, as I do on an annual basis, and that usually happens in June. I set that up for June. And then the other thing that is big that's coming up is we'll do our best to maintain our ownership of record and tax bill mailing address database for the tax bill mailings in May. It's important to me that before the treasurer cuts off the file to print tax bills, we are as caught up as possible to have the correct names and addresses so that all of the bills are going to the right place. And that's something that we've made a priority over the last few years, and it's been pretty successful. So one of the reasons I jumped ahead and told you some things that were going on in May is because of my last item, which is continuing education courses. I've got to take a certain number of hours of continuing education in order to maintain the certifications that I have to hold my position. And in doing that, the class schedules this year are pretty sparse. So I had to choose a class that's going to actually take place on April 16th, which would be the next time that this committee meets. So likely I won't be here for that meeting. I won't see you folks until May. So I just wanted to give you an update on what was going on in April and May, because I won't see you till probably, I'll see you in May, in the middle of May. So with that said, I'll open the floor to any questions, please.
Is there one? Ms. Delmar? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Morning, Eric. What are PI values?
Productivity index values. Those are, farmland is not assessed at 1/3 of fair cash value. It's at an agricultural economic value. So those values are certified to us by the Department of Revenue, and they're developed by some folks at the University of Illinois in conjunction with some people at the Department of Revenue to give us a per acre value based on the productivity index of that soil. So the more productive the soil, obviously the higher the assessed value per acre. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's a fair way. Surely a fair way.
Sure, it's also designed to, I think back in the 80s, it was a, farmland values were very speculative and they were going up and down quite a bit. And I think this was a way to sort of make it a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more predictable from one year to the next as well.
Another question, it might be, one of the important things is the tax bill gets to the right person. I wonder what method do you use, because it's important.
Well, that all comes from the recorder's office. So what we do is we try to make sure that we are, even if the sales aren't in the system quite yet, if we're a week or two behind on the sales, we try to make sure that the names and the addresses where those bills are supposed to go are caught up to the moment when the treasurer creates that file. So we'll even get into, if it's a Wednesday, we'll get into the Laredo system, which the recorder allows us access to, and we'll get the Monday and Tuesday recordings into our database, so that when the recorder creates that file, he's sending bills to the up-to-the-minute owner. And then, of course, as soon as he hits the button to create the file, there will be some deeds recorded that make it out of date, but at least it's up to date to the moment that he creates the file. And I think that's the intention of our office.
Just another example of cooperative effort, for sure.
Absolutely.
Mr. Snipes.
I've been asked this question. I guess someone has been reading the paper, but from the county level, I would ask it, and hopefully you can probably address it, or at least address where it should be addressed.
Sure.
What effect does a TIF have on taxes, on your property taxes?
Yeah, TIF is something that happens beyond the assessment level. TIF does not affect the assessed value itself, and it's something that's handled in the clerk's office. So, I mean, without me getting into, and I shouldn't get into a 20-minute discussion on TIF, because I will admit that I don't have enough knowledge to go on for that long. But that is something that the extension clerk and/or Mr. Hendrickson, the clerk himself, probably should address specifically.
So that's a clerk, they can go to the clerk's office
That's
in order
correct.
to get that information.
TIF and enterprise zone and things like that are things that are handled at the clerk's level, not at the assessment level.
Okay, I haven't referred to this
Thank you.
video.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's good. And one last question is, what kind of a course title would you be taking what's a continuing ed course for, assessor?
Sure. You know, there are a number of courses. Unfortunately, I've taken a lot of them. So this year, like I said, the course schedules were so sparse that I had to just pick one that I hadn't taken yet. And the one that I'm taking in April is a introductory to township assessing course, because I hadn't taken it yet, and I do need 30 hours this year in order to maintain my certification. So I do have one coming up in June as well, and I think that one deals with tax policy, which I'm looking forward to more than the one in Springfield in April. But it will fulfill my 30 hours for the year. That's for sure.
You said Springfield. Sometimes they are online, I hope, for you.
They do have some that are online. This one's a pretty robust course. It's got 350 or 400 pages to the book, so I really wanted to kind of have an instructor go through some of those things, even though I think I could probably get through an introductory course like that probably without it. I thought it would be a good idea to be there.
And thank you for sharing that, but that's good. That's good always to keep learning.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Something else? Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day, folks.
Thank you. Next, we'll turn to the recorder's office, Ms. Gabois. See her, the report is given to you in your packet. Is there a motion to approve her report? Ms. Peters, Ms. Polk, second, please. All in favor of the report approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say aye. Motion carried. So, good to know you have great addresses.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you.
Well, we hope they're good addresses. And I'll just touch a little bit on what Eric was talking about. So our Laredo system is the outside of the recorder system, which we've given access to his office so that he can be more in tune more immediately with those deeds and property transfers, because that's what keeps our information current, so that those property tax bills can get to the right people. Yes. So it seems to work really well. So they have 100% full access to it, and I think they use it very well.
I think you
Yeah.
share very well.
Yeah,
You
so
play well.
other than that, there's really not too much to report. Is there any questions on my
Are there-
February report at all?
What you see in your packet are the questions?
Excuse me.
I guess the question would be, how's business?
February did not turn out as fruitful as we were hoping. It was starting out really great, and then things really kind of slowed down at the end of the month. It's a short month too, but you know, every day we do recording, so it's a good day.
And your books, did you get the book open that was?
Yes, we did get the
How'd
books
you do
open.
that?
Book number 34, both grantor grantee are back. And 35 went out. That was the other set of books that have locks on them. So now we know how to open them. And then after that, we're going to get more into our contiguous numbering and getting the books done in order. So yeah, so and we'll do as much as we can this year with what we allocated in the budget, and then move on to next year. So.
How did you get that book open?
Well, actually, we found a way of kind of
Maneuvering?
yeah, without a key. So
You're going to say pick the lock.
yeah, well, we tried that. That didn't work either. But the other thing I just want to bring to the attention of the board is there's a lot of activity going on in Springfield. Specifically, there's a lot of activity regarding the recorder's office. Most recently, and this really just came in the 1st of March and caught us off guard, is you know by my report that we collect what's called an RHSP fee on every real estate related recording. They're looking to double that, imposing a $18 per document fee on the people who record documents. There is a lot of information regarding what rental housing support is and does it or does it not benefit our county versus others and things like that. I just want you to know we are very aggressively working on this. Our association is opposed to this. We would appreciate anyone who's willing to go online and fill out a witness slip to oppose this. It's Senate Bill 2092.
Senate Bill 2092.
Yes.
And tell us again how to access that witness.
So if you go to the Illinois General Assembly website, they're under home. I need it really. There's a place to go where you can put in the bill number and then you're able to fill out a witness slip of opposition or in favor of if you truly believe that that's what we need to be doing. But if I may give you just a brief synopsis, the $9 we collect goes to the state of Illinois. $6 of that $9 is allocated to Cook County.
Oh, gosh.
$3 is allocated to the rest of the state into a fund. Okay? Now, has Kankakee County benefited? Yes, we have. But have we benefited to the full extent of what our county takes in? Absolutely not. And I'll let you know we are pushing to change that. We had started already working on that when all of a sudden this got slipped in to double the imposing fee. We're in favor always of helping in accommodating rental support or the homeless. We would like to see that come home and be more effective in Kankakee County, as the other recorders are for their counties.
Oh, sure.
So I'll be reaching out to our housing authority, getting more information from them, and just finding out exactly, at least during my tenure, how much money has been used in Kankakee County. This program did start in 2006. So, and as you can see from my spreadsheet, how much money annually we've taken in rental housing support. So that's that RHSP fee. So for example, last fiscal year, it was $110,196. You know,
The left column.
we can help a lot of people and we need to help our own. So
When,
it's kind of like my new project.
well, gosh, a fervent
Yeah.
version. I'll be right with you, but as I've seen this, tell me that name again. What was that sheet called that we go online and get? What was that?
Oh, the witness slip.
Witness sheet. When I've seen that witness sheet, it says there's a little line that says, I agree or disagree
Right.
with the bill. We put disagree
Yes,
with the
you're
bill.
going to oppose, disagree opposition, yes.
Okay, so.
And you can
SB
go on and see
29.
who all is in favor of or who's opposed of.
You can.
On any, oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay, so let me see
Yeah.
whose hands.
Full transparency.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Peters is 16. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. They're floating an idea of taxing all financial transactions. Do you have any information on whether that's going to affect you? These are all financial transactions.
What bill
So,
is that?
Well, I don't know if they've even got a bill yet, but there's a list of things that Pritzker would like to tax, and that was something that was brought
Chairman
up. You haven't
Wheeler,
heard
are
that
you
yet?
familiar
All
with this?
financial transactions. So that seemed pretty wide to me, affecting, everything you do.
So
So-
you said a they. Do you think that would be the Senate or the House? Or,
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Like I said, I just read a few things on Facebook, and I didn't know
Oh.
if you knew anything about it. So
We'll
Illinois policy puts stuff out. So-
Until there's a bill number and we can see some truth to the matter.
Right.
I'm sorry to say it
The
that way, but
Okay. But you're all financial transactions, right? So-
absolutely. Everything the county does, everything government does, one way or another, is a transaction of some kind. So that's pretty vague.
Right.
I don't know, Chairman
didn't know
Wheeler,
if you
have you
had
heard
any-
anything about this? Okay, so it hasn't hit the chairman's radar, so
Okay.
yeah. But
see
so
why it hit yours, though, can't you?
so other than that, we really would appreciate any support of opposition. That would really help us go a long way. And like I said, we are working diligently to.
And after you fill in the witness sheet, you just put send or
Yep.
Grease.
Yep. Your name, your title, if you represent an association or whatever. So county board member would.
Obviously can witness on a lot of things.
Yes.
I'm going to go back here and then I'll come back to you. Okay, please, Mr. Steins.
All right, Lord, looking at your narrative, it appears as we lost up to like $17,000 in revenue, but in February it appears that we gained a little footage there to the tune of almost 7,000. Do you foresee March coming up close to what it was back in 2018, or are we just at a slow period?
So, recording is not a marketable opportunity. Recording is a reactive opportunity.
Right.
So, if you're buying and selling, you're a great customer for the recorder's office. That's the only way I can answer that question. Of course, we want to believe we are on the right side of the economic turn, that things are positive for everyone in the county. So, and that would include the recorder's office in terms of the transactions.
Oh, okay.
If I was to be looking at this from your perspective, I would be looking more at the lowering number of foreclosures
Mm-hmm.
and seeing that as a positive too. So, that's the best answer I can give you. I'd love to be able to market for the office, but yeah,
Sell.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Please record. Yeah.
A lot.
Yes.
Okay, what's the other note up here? Okay, let me get you. 1 second.
The
6.
group that is this a recorders group that's basically saying get out and put the witness slips in? Is that do they have the ability, because I know with a lot of groups they're able to put the witness slips and put them out to people. Are you able to email those out or put an available link somewhere on your page or somewhere where people can go and it'll basically jump right to that witness slip so they can fill it out?
I would have to check. The association website, probably. The
Yeah.
recorder's website, I would say no, because I don't
Right.
think that should be used for a political position. It more as it's a service that the recorder's office provides
Right.
of information. But our association does have a lobbying firm, so I could check with them and see
Okay.
if that's a possibility.
Yeah, I just think if it's
Yeah.
easier for people to get to it, more
Right.
people will be involved and
Right.
activated to do it.
Absolutely.
So.
It's very interesting once you start getting in there and seeing all the different bills, and you could get real caught up. You can spend days.
Anything else? Mr. Wheeler?
To that end, the only way you can use the government resources is if the board has taken an official position on it.
Right.
That's the only way you can use the email of the county.
Right.
So is your implication that this committee could make a recommendation?
They could make a recommendation to executive committee to put it on the agenda, and then that vote would go to the full board.
Is there a motion for that?
Well, this is going to be heard on March
Yeah.
20th.
I think
I would say it would be your individual discretion to decide if you wanted to do that as an individual county board member or person of the public. Because the hearing is March 20th.
See what they have by then, you're saying, and
Yeah,
then a
so-
position after they come.
Yeah, I mean, it's first hearing on March 20th, but, you know, the more we get in front of them, letting them know this is not really a positive thing for our county or the state of Illinois,
No,
the better.
just some people are going to benefit. Some people will benefit.
More greatly than others.
Very greatly than others. Good discussion, everyone. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
We've added a
you.
lot today.
Everyone have a great day.
Let's go to our number 7. Animal control, Julie Boudreau. We have a motion, we have a need of a motion because of the report that's in your packet. Is there a motion to that effect? Ms. Polk? Mr. Fairfield, again, second, if you will. You see the report, is there on our vote, all in favor of this report, say aye, please. All opposed, say aye. Okay, the motion carried. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. Are there any questions I can ask on my report? Or answer, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Wheeler, we get to 10, okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say, very much appreciate on the second page of the report, that what we asked for, you delivered, and that was really, really great information. Is there a way to carve out a spot for this on your website? Because the public I continually get asked, can they see this information that's in the packet? And this is the page really that they want to see.
Sure.
You know, these are the ongoing numbers, and you just put a new PDF up every month, and they can check it out. I think it would do a long ways towards furthering that relationship with the public.
Sure, we certainly can do
Yeah.
that. We try to be transparent, and
Right.
sometimes not all of the news is, great news. Sometimes we have to make some hard decisions, but there's, valid reasons behind them. We're looking at the health, welfare of the animals, as well as the health, welfare of the citizens in Kankakee County.
My particular point would be that, yeah, there was, 6 owner-elected euthanasias, and then 7 that were from either behavior sick or injured or rabies.
Yes.
So people would know that, roughly half are, the owners are asking for that.
Right.
And until we put that out there, people don't know. They only assume the worst, if that is their bent. So,
Sure.
Which is most that are on Facebook or.
Yeah, and I think even a couple of the
That kind of
rabies
stuff.
observations, people did not come back and get those animals.
Right.
So they were essentially abandoned with us.
Right.
Years ago, we tried to mitigate that a little bit by having people pay their board up front, because they would say, yes, I want my animal back. They would leave it there for 10 days for the quarantine period. And at the end of the 10 days, I guess out of sight, out of mind, then they just wouldn't come back and get them because there was, fees and fines to pay. We try really hard to get those people to pay the board up front. So if they still choose to not come back and redeem their animal, at least the county hasn't had to carry that entire burden. We do issue citations for abandonment because there is in our ordinance that they have the opportunity to just sign off and pay a simple surrender fee. So we give them those options, but thank you, and I'd be happy to do that.
Yes, thanks for coming, and thanks for asking for it, because you're right. This is good. On, for example, the stray was a 30 under dog, and then under a reclamation, it was 16. Would you say they are connected to each other? that the 30 strays, maybe 16 were actually owners that came and got their dogs.
Yeah, there's, you know, a variety, and some of the months bleed over into others, some that come in and don't, you know, the disposition doesn't happen until down the road. So not all of the numbers, you know, really add up. This statistical sheet is basically what the state law is requiring every shelter in Illinois to provide on an annual basis. Every shelter out there should start collecting this data now, as of January. It will be due in 2020, but it will reflect those numbers that happened in 2019. So literally, I took the information through the state law that was passed and put this on a spreadsheet, and we're already we've kind of done this with shelter animal numbers. It's through a Maddie's Fund type of thing. Sometimes, you know, you may win a little grant or, you know, something, and we've been doing that for a couple years, and the state has now passed this law to say every shelter out there, every rescue out there has to collect and report this data broken down like this, and they're supposed to post this annually on the Illinois Department of Ag website starting in 2020.
That all sounds good.
we'll see.
Doesn't it? Yeah, that sounds very good. So, any other questions on either report, because it's a good information? Yes, and sometimes would you say, or would you judge, if a person brings an animal in that's ill and asks it to be euthanized, that's one of your lines on here too, isn't it? Or is that goes?
Yes, that's under that owner request.
So you're not really sure, owner elect, to euthanize those 2 or those 4 cats. They could have been ill, they could have been old, they could have been unable to function.
Generally, we're not, I mean, animals are property in the state of Illinois, and if somebody came in and said, I'm moving, I cannot take my animal with me, there's nothing really wrong with it, except that it you know, is very bonded to me, and I don't want to think that my animal's out there with anybody else if I can't have it. They could do that. We would certainly try to convince them to allow us to act on the animal's behalf and rehome it. I can't say that happens very often, except right now we have a case similar to this, and the individuals had the animal since 2016. They adopted it from a rescue or shelter down in southern Illinois. They just don't want to continue to give it vet care, and they want us to euthanize it. And I've said, no, you can return it to the shelter that you adopted it from. They'll take it back, but they want the man to drive it down there. And he just simply doesn't want to do anything. And we've said, no, I'm sorry, we're not just going to do this to this animal. So once in a while that type of thing happens, but not very often.
What's the result?
Usually,
how would that be resolved?
Well, we're hoping that he will do the right thing and go ahead and take that animal back to where it came from. So, you know, he could certainly reach out as an owner surrender to other agencies in this area, but he should coordinate back with the shelter that he adopted it from.
Okay, so you've given him good advice, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and the vet has supported this as well and said, no, this is really just some skin problems that could easily be treated if he would just do so.
Well, we've had a good history of animal care today. That's good. Anything else to question? Mr. Snipes, please go ahead.
Just a couple of things. However, this ordinance that we had before us,
it's under another topic.
you got up under this. Okay, so this section 10.4, that's all up on another.
It's under number 8 on the
Okay.
agenda. So
That's fine.
hold your thought. It's almost next.
All right.
So let's talk about Bark for a minute, about your fundraiser.
It's
Please do
coming up close.
that. I'll be the sign holder.
And we put a couple big posters in the windows at Knights of Columbus. I hope the wedding venue that was there last Saturday didn't mind. They had it beautifully decorated, and we had permission to put up our signs. I didn't want to take away from what they were doing, but I did not hear anything. We're really excited about this event. This is the third year in a row that we've done this comedy event. This year, our headliner will be the gentleman that produces or this company. Generally, he's been the coordinator and selects comedians from sometimes locally, Michigan and areas. And this year he will be our headliner. So I'm pretty excited to have him with us. And we currently, I mean, there are more tickets coming in every day. So I'm sure that the number that I say today is not going to be accurate. I know we have well over 100 tickets already sold. Certainly we have room for more. We have, I believe, close to $4,000 in sponsorships from local businesses, animal hospitals, county board members. So, you know, we really thank everybody for their support. We should have some wonderful raffle baskets there, and we hope that, you know, we invite you all to come and have a good time with us. Last year, I believe we were at almost standing room only, and a couple people had to sit in chairs along the back wall. So
No, he's pointing. No pointing.
So thank you for asking.
What it's saying on here is there is a silent auction, there is a split the pot, there are snacks, and there's a cash bar, as
Yes.
well as entertainment.
Yes.
All for $30.
$30, or if you buy them in pairs, it's only $25.
And if the doors open at 6, when can anything start? Then you can start eating. Then you can start spending your money. Then. But
Yes, you can certainly come in at 6. That gives us gives folks an opportunity to look at all the raffle baskets. You know, start meeting with their friends and having, you know, just some social time there. And then the comedians take stage at 7.
Okay.
They'll take a break so people can go back and bid on raffles if they want. But it goes quick then. The night goes really fast then, and they usually wrap it up about 9:30.
Okay, that's another good
comedians
question.
do. So
and do you hold the raffle prizes after that last performance?
we do. Once
Okay.
that they're done, then we'll close the bidding on the raffles, and because everybody is pretty anxious then to wrap it up
Sure.
and get home.
Do you have to be present to win?
For your raffle baskets,
Yes.
If you win the raffle and you've already left, then we'll certainly try to contact you and we'll hold it for you.
I'm counting on that. Okay, anything else? Oh, good. Let's see. Let's go, Mr. Legess first in the back. That would be.
Can you buy
14.
a table and reserve?
Yes, if you want a table of 8, I think that's how many the tables hold. You can go online and just you know, purchase. I think when you're on the Bark website, you'll see one little dog is for 1 ticket and 2 little dogs is for a pair of tickets. So you'll want to, you know, if you're ordering 1 pair, just make sure that your number 1, you realize that it's actually 2 tickets, and you get some savings there.
Oh, sure. So times 4 then.
Yeah, exactly. And you can certainly email Bark and let them know your guests' names, and they will be held at the door. You don't have to go worry about getting paper tickets. If you want a paper ticket, they're available, but otherwise they'll be kind of a will call at the door.
Good information. Okay, Ms. Parker, I think 8.
Thank you,
Okay, please.
Madam Chair. Julie, is there still time for sponsorships?
Yes.
Good. That's a
Absolutely.
wonderful thing for all of us to do, to get out there and do a little sponsoring of this event.
Thank you.
And raffle baskets, I imagine, or silent auction,
Yeah,
or
we'll certainly
time
still-
for lots of things.
Yeah.
Anything else? Good information. Okay, I think I'll ask you to stay here if you will.
Sure.
We'll go on to the next part of it. So we'll go now to the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. Ms. Parker, did you want to come and sit with us too? Or you want to, are you comfortable?
I'm comfortable here.
Okay.
I can come up.
Would you?
If you don't mind.
No, I think it's fine if you will.
Sitting here would be,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Ms. Slaby today for bringing the information about the swap meet to our attention. And of course, I want to let everyone know that I want to underscore welfare under our committee, animal welfare. And there have been a lot of concerns about the swap meet out at the county fairgrounds, and what we had heard today is actually inhumane treatment of those animals. It's disturbing to hear this, and I know the swap meet has been out there for a long time, but there seems to be a lack of concern for those animals. We're grateful, as you can see in your packet, the ordinance that was passed last May to stop the sale of dogs and cats, and we were happy that that happened. We're grateful to the county board for passing this ordinance. Now we're asking and bringing it as a recommendation to this committee that we include no live animal sales at the swap meet due to the inhumane treatment. This was brought to our attention through our AWAC committee, and we appreciate those that are observing those actions out there. So it's a recommendation from our committee to stop all sale of live animals.
So you want to turn to, you're turning to the second
Yes.
page here to show exactly what you're recommending?
Yes, if everyone would turn over on the second page of the ordinance, where it's section 1014, sale prohibited. We would like to replace no dog or cat shall be offered for sale with no live animal shall be offered for sale. We would like to change that ordinance to include that.
Is that the, in section A, the only place
It's the
that?
only place
Okay.
that it was listed.
Please, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, and just for the committee's sake, I'd met with well, various members of the AWAC, the people in the animal community over the last month, and also Ms. Parker, regarding kind of the role of AWAC. It was to take these ideas. We created this so the public and the people that were in the animal community would at least be able to make recommendations to this committee and saying, we think this is important, we should do this. It wasn't to, you know, do something and then go out in the public and execute it. It was because this is the committee for the county board. And so we kind of had to reaffirm that, like, that relationship was, and that's why Julie's not a voting member there. She is there in an advisory capacity to help them if there's questions that come up about the current ordinances or policies. But it's that committee that has a vote. They have a vote, and then if the vote passes, then it comes to this committee with a recommendation. At that point, if this committee feels that, yes, we agree with this, or no, we don't, but they have that say. And at that point, that's when we engage the state's attorney's office to see if we have the legal purview to do the things that they're talking about. We don't want to engage that office during 6 or 7 meetings to get to this point, because that committee doesn't have the authority to execute on that. It's us. So if this committee feels it's legitimate, they want to go down this road, ask any questions, then there's a vote here. And if that would be to either, if it requires the state's attorneys, you know, look over and, you know, maybe this language is not legal. Maybe we don't have the authority to do this. But that's not for us to say. We didn't go to law school. I don't think so. Yeah. At least I didn't finish. But no, but yeah, but what I'm getting at is that's our job, is to engage that office, not AWAC. And so I hope that makes sense the way that I'm explaining that. You know, we could say, yes, we like the idea, we think this is something we should go forward with, and then send it that direction. And if that office says, well, we can only do it this way, because this is, in, you know, this may be Department of Ag's area, not ours, I don't know. Will County may have looked at it differently. I just want you guys to understand the process. So beyond that,
The good news is we're in the middle, we are in the process.
right,
Yeah,
right.
we-
This is the way it's supposed to work, instead of, you know, 6 months of meetings trying to figure out with the state's attorneys the language and bring it here.
So
This committee probably should decide whether they want to move forward with it, because we are the legislative body, and then we could go down that road.
So AWAC had a good meeting, came up with this motion that was accepted there, bringing it here. Let's see what Mr. Featherling has.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this, recommend this draft to be considered by the county board, state's attorney's office, and then bring it back to the county board, or should it come back here?
I would say that if there are no changes, it could probably go straight to the board, but the state's attorney's office would need to draft something, and if then it would need to come back. If it's fine as is, then
don't change anything.
Yeah,
They
don't.
may change
So it's a recommendation to approve pending any changes from the state's attorney?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
is there a second to that motion then? Mr. Enns? Are there further discussion items, Mr. Snipes?
I will probably concur with the recommendation. However, there are a couple of things that I'm looking at that my eyes are focused on, and one is that original ordinance. I know that's been passed in 2018, but it says that the county, it should be adopts with an S upon it. That's going into that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph. It has the singular, but not the plural, adopts. So the county adopts, and then with your with that recommendation for the motion. No, that's just for purpose of just looking back at it. That can probably just be done by the swift of a pen. It doesn't change the motion. It's just that we need to change up the language. But in this motion that we have, since we are kind of adding this into that, that's the purpose of me saying look at the word adopts. Then also, if you go down to where it says penalty, we need to include a word that says this or something in that second. It says for the purpose of section, person is defined. So I'm assuming that you're saying for the purpose of this section.
For the person of this section?
For the purposes of this section versus just saying for the purposes of section, person is defined as the owner.
Okay.
So while we are amending the motion, while we are adding to or amending this particular ordinance, if those two things can be corrected,
okay.
Just for that particular purpose, the word S with an adopt on it, then this putting the this in there to make it more definitive.
Okay. So,
and then
thanks.
the last one is when I get to your letter.
Oh no! Guess what? It's not me.
Oh, who's doing, Rebel?
Mr. Searoy, you're number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess this would be addressed to maybe Tinker. Has the AWAC committee reached out to the Fairgrounds Board, the Kankakee County Fairground Board, with our intent on this particular resolution to ban them from basically doing business what they're doing now, or a long trade of business? And I don't agree with the business they're doing. I just want to, are they aware of what's going on? Bantam Club?
That's who does the swap meet.
Right, but don't they have to get approval to use the fairgrounds?
I believe they just run it.
Right, so that's, the fairgrounds has to know that that maybe we were coming down on some of their renters. You know, that's, I don't know if the communication line has gone that far, but I would feel that it would be just to
Wise.
let them know this is our intent, and maybe they could correct the problem, maybe they can't, I don't know, but they should at least be in the know.
You don't like them to be surprised.
I wouldn't want that.
I wouldn't want. I don't.
You know,
either.
it's the fairground board has to run the fairgrounds, and they have a budget they have to operate on. And if we're going to take something that's dire to their budget, they need to know.
So are you recommending that is the group rather than the Bantam group?
It should be this committee or the board sends it to them, not the committee. That's what I was trying to get established, is that
I
they
understand.
feed us a recommendation, that we reach out if we feel this is something that we want to do.
Prior to the passing of this?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Before it goes to full
Yeah,
board.
yeah, all right.
Thank you.
That's why I just want everybody in the know. Thank you.
So where we are right now, we have a motion and a second, and a comment of what to do really specially after the motion passed. Okay. Is there any other discussion at all? Can you see anything wrong with this motion?
Oh, no recommendations up there.
Other than those recommendations, what do you say? Ms. Parker, you have something?
I was just going to say, I'm sure, to go back to Mr. Snipes, that I'm sure our state's attorney's office will go through this ordinance and making sure that everything is correct before it's passed. So, but thank you for bringing those recommendations to our attention, Mr. Snipes. Thank you.
Good discussion. Ms. Ockel?
Have you talked to the board? I mean, I guess I didn't know if you had talked to the board or not and asked them to do more guidance when those events occur, or to go around and, I don't know if that's their responsibility, the people that run the fair, but has anything happened, and talk to them at all
I'm
about
going
regulation?
I'm going to defer that question to Ms.
Okay.
Woodrow because there's been action and she can take care of that.
Last year, when the amendment was passed, or the new language was passed, banning the dogs and cats, I did have a conversation with a couple people from the fair board, and it was just a unofficial, casual conversation that this had been amended or this language had passed. And I know that they do try as well to kind of oversee some of this. I know, I believe there were some horses that were brought to the property and they were asked to show Cochran's tests that they could not produce, so they were ordered to leave. And they are aware that this could expand, and they really were not of a mindset either way. It was not a make or break for the fairgrounds to have this event there. That was, basically the conversation
That's good to know.
that came back to me.
So I think what I heard you say is the fairgrounds realize it's there. They possibly realize there's something not good going on there, and it wouldn't maybe matter if they weren't there anymore.
That
In
was the
capacity.
yes, that was
And-
what
and
I
that
heard
would
from
be-
them.
That would be May 2018 or someplace before that. Okay, Ms. Parker again.
And prior to this ordinance being passed, members of that particular group did attend AWAC, and we discussed it with them and about the dog and cat sale, and they were a little upset, but after we talked to them, they understood the situation. So they know that there are problems out there. So there's been over a year that this has been going on.
Continuing on.
They do know.
Other thing is that Julie has witnessed all things that were reported. Wouldn't you agree with that?
For the most part, I was not present when the little baby calves were put in the trunk, but another citizen was and did document it. So yes, I've seen that. Yes, I've stopped on that same date, was standing there talking to one of the board members of this Tri-K Pigeon Club, and a gentleman came walking by, basically had a pig tied by the front legs and was just dragging it along the gravel, and I immediately said, stop. There was just no reason for that. Yes, I understand that carrying a pig is not the easiest thing to do. Then you bring in a proper cart to haul it. They did stop. They did go get their truck and didn't take the pig any further in that manner. The event is so large that you need a team of people out there to be everywhere, seeing everything. You can't get around everywhere and see all that there is to be done. We've tried to recommend suggestions to the club to improve the handling of them, to address the language barriers, because there's a lot of diversity out there. And yes, they certainly could, if they wanted to, put some different guidelines in that would improve the transport of the animals and the care of the animals while they were there. I can tell you that we've seen a few people out there that present their animals beautifully. They're very proud of them, and you can see that they're not just hauling them in, but that's less than what it certainly should be. I've offered the club to come and speak with them and try to help them improve things if that's what they wanted to do. They've not taken me up on that.
Chairman
That's all
Weber?
good. Mr. Featherling first.
First of all, we had a motion on the floor, and a question I have is, this is a county-wide recommendation, not just for the fairgrounds. And if they're doing something nasty there, I really don't care if they make any money or not. I mean, you can't change the whole thing just because you're afraid they're not going to get their $300 Saturday for having their thing at the fairgrounds. So I don't know. I mean, if they see it in the paper, that's one thing, but you have to go with a 15-day notice for the county board meeting. Is that right, Andy?
No, it's 48 hours.
48 hours, okay. So it had to be a notification, and if they see it, they see it. If they don't, well, we're going to find out in a hurry. So we don't have the people to police those kind of events. How can you allow them to have them?
How often do they occur? These swap events?
5 times a year.
5, okay.
Okay, then should we go to the motion and then Mr. Snipes, did you have something else for them?
Yeah, that's simply to state, while I agree that it is for the whole county, due diligence is always when we have individuals in businesses, something like the county fair or that nature, which means maybe 5 times a year, they may miss something or whatever. So just a courtesy call or just to bring it to their attention, I just think is just part of our professional ethics and respect for businesses that are in our county. If we can do anything to, thwart and kind of give them a heads up, let's do it.
I agree with that. Let's call for the motion then. All in favor of the motion to ban all live animals for sale, gift, or other transfer of ownership, please say
I'll
aye.
do a roll call.
Okay.
Probably changing the order.
Have a roll call. Thank you for that.
Ms. Weber? Aye. Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Legess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk? Aye. Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar? Aye. Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Zenz?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Ms. Zucolo?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Next, Ms. Parker, you want to talk about the next item on your agenda?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very sad. We had a wonderful member, Laura Weber, on our committee for a very short time. She submitted her resignation because of her work schedule. And we we do have one opening on AWAC. And if you would like, anyone would like to apply, can do so by the application that can be found on the county website. And we're accepting those applications now.
She's a relative.
Yeah.
I know, she's so sweet.
Snipes.
Yeah, I was looking at it. I thought, I didn't see I looked at the Weber and thought it was you. I was about to teach you and say, because there was a word that was left out, says work doing, and I believe you want to put in work hours to attend. But since it wasn't you.
I won't give up on you here at all. Thank you for your sentiment. Ms. Parker?
First of all, I want to thank you for taking the lead while I was out for my surgical leave, and I really appreciate that. And thank the committee, AWAC committee, for bringing these. We don't have our eyes everywhere, but we rely on people in the community to bring those situations and issues to our committee so that we can bring it to community services. Thank you, Andy. And to bring it to community services, because we can't be everywhere all the time. So it's really appreciated that our animal lovers are out there watching over. Thank you.
That meeting you're speaking of, that's just enthusiasm. If we all had the passion of that committee, we'd be doing great things every day. So appreciate you, Ms. Parker, and the committee members.
The committee, yes.
And that the committee was even created. That's a really good idea. So that's good. Well, with those happy notes, is there any other new or old business to bring before us? Okay, well then someone move that we adjourn. Mr. Legess, Ms. Peters seconds it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carried. Thanks for being here.